You know, there's a saying that goes around that any press is good press, and any popularity is good popularity. And that is certainly true. A great example of such things would probably involve whatever Illumination does in their movies since the dawn of time, and since the dawn of a creature known as the Minion. These yellow turds have been the face of the studio since Despicable Me graced the screens, and it's only gotten worse. Or better if you're in the perspective of Illumination, which prides itself on every damn movie that it makes that has grossed over billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars on cheaper budgets than most studios, due to whatever they base it in and how simplistic their stories can be. And I've reached the point of exhaustion with it. Nothing will ever change with each new movie, just like how their next great release, such as Minions and Monsters, will continue on the same. Where you can assuredly bet that this will make them buttloads of money on the budget alone and the infuriating consistency of the franchise, because banana. And for more than a decade, they have existed as main characters of their own franchise for some reason, where they have added nothing meaningful to the story except exist as funny characters that make certain laugh for no greater reason. And mind you, this comes from my own personal feelings about them since the original Despicable Me, the only Despicable Me film I look back upon really fondly for what it did, but noting what the Minions existed for at that time. Yet how after that, they just kept going with these characters because they were something to be celebrated as the main source of the franchise existence, where somehow this seems more like a fact. Because right now, it's been 4 years since the movie The Rise of Gru and the Gentle Minions meme that it carried with it, where if I see some other trend involving this near release, I'm really going to lose it. Because they don't deserve anything for anyone's liking. They have not wholeheartedly earned it and never will, even if George Lucas is featured in this next stupid third movie. So for this video, I'm just going to boringly discuss how the Minions exhaust me now, and how despite what I want, they will keep going until the end of time, because somehow, one yellow-eyed twat makes for good comedy and characters above all stories. So let's go back to the beginning. In the original Despicable Me, the Minions weren't the stars, they were supporting players, chaotic little yellow henchmen who existed to make Gru's evil schemes funnier through their constant failures and slapstick incompetence. They added flavor, they were just the perfect comic relief, loud, dumb, and disposable in the best way as they were expected in the name the Minions. You laughed at them, but the heart of the movie was Gru's transformation, the girls, and the actual story. They worked because they were the side characters, and they were not supposed to be more than that. But something happened after that first film. The audience latched onto them hard. The toys flew off the shelves, and the memes spread like wildfire. The yellow bastards became the breakout stars, were the thing everyone remembered and quoted the most. Where suddenly Illumination decided they had lightning in a bottle, or more accurately, lightning in a cheap, mass-produced yellow capsule. The Minions weren't just popular, they were a marketing monster that transcended the actual movies. And that outside success is what kickstarted everything. It directly led to the 2015 Minions movie, a full spin-off that put these backup characters into the front and center with basically no real story and just 90 minutes of gibberish and banana-related mayhem. The film made over $1 billion, where of course it did. From that point forward, the Minions stopped being supporting players in Gru's life and became the main franchise engine. Gru was the side character, the Minions were front and center. The tail was now wagging the dog, and Illumination had no interest in stopping it. The original role that made them the charming in small doses got completely abandoned in favor of turning them into the franchise's golden geese. And once that switch flipped, there was no going back. Where the part that really stings is the fact it made over $1 billion, and the previous two Despicable Me movies didn't even reach $1 billion until after the Minions movie was released, where it showed Illumination and the industry that you don't actually need a good movie anymore. You don't need depth, originality, or a compelling reason for the film to exist. You just need a recognizable brand, bright colors, simplistic humor that translates globally, and people will laugh at banana. The Minions movie itself wasn't a passion project or a natural extension of the story, it was a calculated cash grab that worked spectacularly. It proved the formula to keep it cheap, keep it stupid, keep it yellow, where the money will pour in regardless of the quality. That success didn't just validate the spin-off, it locked the franchise into this path forever, and Illumination as a whole, where why try to make something better when good enough prints billions? The Minions obviously became bigger than the stories that created them, and we've all been paying for it ever since. Literally in that case. So when you fast forward to the next Minions movie in 2022 with The Rise of Gru, this one was supposed to be different. It brought back Steve Carell's Gru as a kid and an actual connection to the main timeline, and tried to weave the Minions in a slightly more structured story with the Vicious Six and some 70s flair. And yeah, I'll admit on that side, it was an improvement over the first Minions movie. Having Gru involved gave it actually some personality and stakes instead of pure yellow chaos for an hour and a half. The animation was solid, some of the gags landed better, and it didn't feel quite as hollow. But here's the thing. It was the same bullshit at its core. The minions remained to be the main draw, the plot was still paper thin when you look past the nostalgia and action, and the story problems never really went away. They were still mostly there for slapstick and gibberish, adding nothing very meaningful to its depth. The movie worked well because it leaned back toward the original Despicable Me formula, rather than it being because the minions had magically become better characters. And then after that came the gentle minions phenomenon towards this movie. The trend and kids and teens showed up in theaters in suits, acting all proper before losing their minds during the movie. It went massively viral, boosted the box office even more, and gave the franchise this weird ironic cultural moment. For a brief time, it felt like the minions had successfully bridged generations again, from kids to ironic Gen Z appreciation. But even that, to me, couldn't hide the exhaustion. The meme was fun, the movie was fine, yet underneath it all, it still really had nothing changed. The same formula, the same reliance on the old yellow turds was kept completely unchanged. Gentle Minions was just another layer of hype on top of the old same machine. And then we get to Despicable Me 4, the latest mainline entry that was supposed to bring things back to Gru and the family. Instead, the minions' involvement somehow became even more extreme and more exhausting. This time around, a bunch of them get juiced up with superpowers by the Anti-Villain League, turning them into mega minions, a blatant Avengers or Fantastic Four parody, complete with stretchy powers, fire, strength, and general mayhem. They don't just support the plot anymore, they actively derail it for their chaos wreck sites and steal focus from Gru's family at key moments. Their slapstick and gibberish are cranked up to 11 even more than their own spin-offs, turning what should be a Gru-centered movie into another extended Minions showcase. It's just the same bullshit with a slightly shinier coat of paint. The movie feels overstuffed and unfocused, juggling too many subplots, while the emotional core with the family gets sidelined for more yellow antics. The Mega Minions concept was clearly designed for future merch and potential spin-offs, not because it served the story, where the result is a mediocre, loud, formulaic ride that critics and tired adults called it out for being exactly what it is, more of the same on autopilot. Even when the franchise tries to go back to basics with Gru front and center, the Minions' presence becomes so bloated and so centralized that they weigh everything about it down, which again only leads the way for more minion dominance in the future. Where it comes to today, where if the franchise wasn't already exhausting enough, we have Minions and Monsters, another prequel where this one is set in the 1920s, even further back before the events of the first two Minions movies, where the plot involves the Minions heading to old Hollywood, accidentally becoming movie stars during the silent era, throwing lavish parties where they decide they want to make their own monster movie. They team up with some new characters, use a spellbook from an old evil boss, summon monsters for their film, and of course, accidentally unleash chaos that threatens the entire planet. The classic Minions create a problem through stupidity, and they have to save the world from it. It's the same exact formula again. More prequel nonsense that adds nothing meaningful to the lore, with more meta Hollywood jokes, and more chances for the yellow turds to bumble around a new setting while fresh slapstick opportunities are abound. They're not evolving as characters in any way, they're just getting new backdrops to the same repeat tired antics they are already in. Because again, each Minions movie is a prequel before the events of the main Despicable Me franchise, and nothing will change with this movie. And this is what the Minions franchise has become, a never-ending cycle of prequels that exists purely because of the brand still prints money. It doesn't matter with what we've seen with this song and dance for over a decade, Illumination will just keep going back in time, giving them new adventures, and audiences, especially kids, will keep showing up. And that's why I'm just so tired of it. At the end of the day, the Minions franchise is basically churning out the same product over and over again, expecting different results. Sure, there's a new place, 1920s Hollywood this time, but not a new or unique story that actually makes the characters grow, because these characters don't grow unless it's done in a physical way. They aren't there for nuance or meaningful journeys, they're there for the laughs, pure brain-off energy with slapstick humor and bananas, and that's the entire equation. And the people will enjoy it. Kids will laugh, families will fill the theaters, merch will fly off the shelf, and Illumination will count the billions again. And I don't believe this is going to stop anytime soon. Nothing I will do will make it stop, where I cannot ask for it to end because that's unrealistic. I can only express my opinion on this equation, and that's how it is. The Yellow Turds won a long time ago. They've outlasted criticism, fatigue, and every attempt to make them something more. They'll just keep going, one prequel, one spinoff, one Mega Minion gimmick at a time. And I'm just tired. And that's all I have to say about that. I'm all done. Banana.